Hello there. So, when you're a small business owner, one of the great things is you get to control your own schedule, right? You can just decide, like, Friday's gonna be warm and I don't feel like working, so I'm just gonna go and play beach volleyball. Not at all a specific example from my life. But it allows you to fit in the personal things that you want to do, or if you have an appointment, or if your kid is sick. I assume I don't have kids, but these personal things that come up, it's not as rigid as working for somebody else, or it can be working for somebody else. But there's a downside. I guess, like without anything, there's a downside. When you have such flexibility in your schedule, you really need to be accountable to the schedule that you set for yourself. So if you're somebody who sees clients and you have appointments in your calendar, then it's super easy to show up for those appointments. Now, I don't mean that the appointment itself is going to be super easy. I just mean that it's a lot easier to commit to being there and doing that appointment because you're accountable to that person and they're paying you, and like it's a much more I don't want to say rigid, but it's kind of rigid. You will let that person down if you don't show up, and it's bad for your business, and it's not a good thing. But when we set times for ourselves and we say, okay, this block from like 1 to 2, I'm going to be writing a social media post or something like that. When that time comes and it's 1 p.m. and maybe it's like you've just gone to have lunch and you're running a little late, and then you think, I'm just gonna have an extra long lunch and like hang out with my friends or something like that, because that feels like the thing I want to do now. That's easy to do in that moment, and like once or twice maybe it wouldn't be a big deal. But if you're constantly doing that, then you don't have any accountability to yourself, and then you start to not trust yourself, and the work that you have to do doesn't necessarily get done. And when we allow ourselves to just do the work that feels urgent, so let's say you've set aside, this time from 1 to 2 to do this social media post, but you get an email and it feels urgent. So maybe you deal with that email, and then you decide, I better deal with this other email too, because this person's looking for a response from me. And it's easy to get really caught up in that urgency and these things need to happen right now feeling. But I would challenge you to decide if that's really true, and to honor the time blocks that you have for yourself. If you have a block of time set aside to do social media, show up at the start of that time and be committed to doing your social media writing or whatever it is that you've set your time aside for, because it's so important to honor the commitments to ourselves just as much as we need to honor those commitments to our clients. This also means that we get more done. And I don't love that phrasing, but do you ever get to the end of the day and then you're like, man, I was busy today. I did a lot of stuff today, but I don't feel like I got anything done. And that happens when we get caught up in our urgent, the tasks that are urgent or that we feel like we need to be doing right then. So if we can honor our blocked time, the time that we've committed during the day when we were not in a place of feeling caught up in things, we were able to look forward and plan out the week and see it from a higher level. If we can trust that version of ourselves, so I talk about past Kate. So past Kate planned to do this at this time. She was probably onto something. Maybe I should listen to her. Now, that's not to say that we should be super, super rigid about our schedules, in the sense that if your kid is sick, I assume, that you can't move some stuff around. But make sure that you move those blocks and don't just skip over them. Because it's when we skip over them and we just don't do it that we start to feel overwhelmed, and it starts to feel like we're never going to get anything done, or like we just don't have time to do all the work, and like, how am I going to get through the week? And that kind of thing comes up when we don't honor those commitments to ourselves. So it's just as important to honor a block of time in your schedule that you've committed to yourself as it is when you commit that time to a client. And I have learned that. I haven't learned it. I'm not sure that that's accurate. I haven't learned it. I'm working on it, because I like to just fill my schedule with things like meetings, and I show up to those meetings, but I'm not very good at showing up to the stuff that I set for myself. And that's something that I'm working on this year, and something that's been coming up for me a lot this week. So that is what's on my mind today, specifically today. I would love to hear your tips, tricks, strategies, whatever you got for me about time management and how you are committed to showing up for yourself in your business. And say, like, if you say you have a time block, how do you show up for that? Or how do you block your time so that you don't end up just skipping over those blocks? I would love to know. Leave that for me in the comments. I'd love to chat with you about it, and just understand how that works for you. If you're looking for a free accounting resource, because I am an accountant, that's what I am good at, I have linked to my PDF resource. It's a quick, I think it's like 7 pages, and each page is an accounting mistake that small business owners make. It includes how you get to that, like what causes that problems, the beliefs that we have, and the actions that we usually take to end up in that problem, and then quick fixes to get out of trouble so that you can start making an impact on those problems right now. So that's free, and I've linked to it in the description. If you have an idea for a future video or a question you'd love answered, please leave that for me in the comments, and I'll do a video for you in the future. I will see you tomorrow.